Hello, everyone, and welcome to our culture presentation. I'm Justice, and today I'm joined by Alyssa, Justin, Grace, and Riley. Today we'll be talking about culture, cognitive development, and moral reasoning, with a specific focus on the comparison between China and the United States. Take it away, Alyssa.
So China has had the fastest growing economy for decades, and it's no surprise because when you think of the top companies in the world, Tesla, Apple, they're the ones manufacturing all those devices and products. But with this growth, there is a double-sided coin because China has been finding that there's been a lot of health issues with their public. As the economy has grown, there's been a rise in BMI for men, but for some reason not for women. China has the largest population in the world, and the life expectancy is 60 to 70 years old, which is about the same as the United States. But thankfully, the US and China have actually been going up. The under 5 mortality rate is 10 to 49 deaths by age 5, every 1,000 live births. The United States has a lower under 5 mortality rate. The culture of China is mostly collectivistic, and it has a shame guilt culture, which basically means that family orientation is really important, and they put the family over the individual. So what you do as an individual really matters because it represents the whole family, and which also ties into the shame and guilt culture, because if what you do is shameful, then you shame your entire family. So actions are really important in China. And we can kind of see that reflected in the recent events of COVID-19. China has had 84,000 confirmed cases, and in January they had a very rapid decrease. And reporters think that it might be because of the collectivistic and shame guilt culture. The pressure for individuals to really take action toward protecting the public is really valuable in China, and that may have been why there were reportedly less COVID-19 cases in January. Although there are also people in just all over the world who questioned if China has reported the exact numbers. They think that maybe they did not report the actual numbers that were spreading, and they may have been doing this to prevent hysteria, and also they could have been doing this as another way of saving face, which is a very important value in China. But the US were not innocent either. They did not take action in the US for 2 months after China finally reported the seriousness of COVID-19. But basically all these aspects of culture, the economy, the health, and collectivistic culture, these tie into Piaget's developmental theories and Kohlberg's moral development, because if we can compare how Kohlberg and Piaget's theories have been seen as different between China and the US, we can kind of see how they may have interacted with these health and cultural and economy differences that we see today.
Okay, so can you tap forward to my slide?
Oh yeah, sorry, I forgot I was in control of that.
Okay.
Okay, so here.
Okay, so for my section, I'm just going to do a little bit of review of the textbook section. The first part that I'm covering is Piaget's stages of cognitive development. This has to do with problem-solving abilities in children from a newborn age to teenage years. These stages are sensory motor, pre-operational, concrete operational, and formal operational. I'm not going to dive super deep into these categories because I feel like they've been covered in every psychology class that I've ever taken. But I do want to bring up a few of the cross-cultural questions posed by the textbook about these stages. The first was whether or not these stages occur in the same order across different cultures. And the answer is yes. Every child needs the background of the stage before they can move on to the next stage. Are the ages associated with each stage the same across different cultures? They're very, very roughly correlated. The ages of Piaget's stages are heavily dependent on the environment and the expectations placed upon a child. For example, cultures where children are required to do things like move a lot or gather food or water, achieve the goals of conservatism, like knowing what fits in what size container, a lot earlier than children in America may. The third question is, what is the actual goal of Piaget's stages? And the answer is, he's building us up to a scientific reasoning. And the second half is this goal applicable to every culture? To which the answer is no. Most cultures in the world favor a common sense over this abstract hypothetical thought that Piaget puts at the top as a sign of intelligence. Second, we're going over Kohlberg's morality. The first stage is pre-conventional, which is to do the right thing to avoid punishment. The second is conventional morality, which is to do the right thing for the approval of those around us. And the third stage is post-conventional morality, which is morality based on our own sense of what's right and wrong. The cross-cultural questions for this are, do these stages occur in the same order across different cultures? Sort of. Every child, no matter what the culture is, experiences pre-conventional and conventional morality in that order. However, the system is widely considered to be culturally biased in favor of individualistic cultures when it lists a morality based on your own personal reasoning as the highest form of morality. Instead, the textbook asserts a different model of morality, a more culturally competent system consisting of 3 different points. And this puts forth the ethic of autonomy, which says that the highest form of morality is this individualistic right or wrong. The ethic of community, which makes the highest form of morality something that your community would approve of. And the ethic of divinity, which centers religious beliefs and spirituality to your individual morality.
All right, so I will be talking a little bit about the research that we conducted for our presentation. In regards to cognitive development, lining up with Piaget's theory, we found in our research that a lot of the cognitive skills and abilities in Chinese children in particular were a lot more better when it came to assessment compared to US children. So we see examples in working memory, how that led to academic achievement, and then also with inhibition, which is kind of our ability to eliminate distractions and kind of be focused on tasks, which also leads into attentional control. That also led to other achievements also in academics and in other tasks as well. We also found that Chinese children had better processing skills in visual and spatial abilities. When it comes to moral reasoning, we found a lot of very good research on this, and it really lines up with what the textbook tells us and kind of what we know in general about the Chinese culture. Like we've all mentioned before, China is a very collectivistic culture. So a lot of the moral characteristics are influenced by their cultural context. And with cross-cultural studies that we found, moral reasoning kind of suggested that there are cultural specific patterns cultural specific patterns. We can also kind of tie that in with cultural relativism that we've studied here in this class. An example of this is that when an individual is faced with a moral dilemma, people from East Asian backgrounds are likely to reference concepts of interpersonal harmony, concern for the welfare of others, mutual benevolence, and love when they offer moral arguments. So again, kind of going back with what Alyssa was saying in our country profile sheet, that they kind of value that sort of sense of harmony and unity amongst each other. I think we also believe that another reason, and we found in research that because they feel this way is that they feel like they're supposed to feel this way, is that they are part of this closely knit collectivity, and whether that's a family or a village, and their behavior should be guided by the expectations of the group. This kind of led us to think that it kind of causes a cultural pressure for people to be more accepting of other people's point of views, even when they morally disagree with others, but they do so to disrupt group harmony in their community. We also found a large amount of research pointing towards authority, respect for authority in Chinese culture. And then again, this kind of ties into the previous research that I mentioned, that they, again, don't want to disrupt that relationship between people that they view as, like for example, like elders or their parents, or people with sort of like in a position of authority. So in one of the research, we found that it may well be that Chinese children prefer preferentially adults as reliable sources of knowledge more than their Western counterparts. So again, looking up to their parents more as a source of knowledge than amongst their peers or their siblings. And then in this study, it showed that Chinese children, in contrast to Western children, have a greater value to an elder or a parental's knowledge of a child than of a child or a peer. And then this kind of led us to find that Chinese parents still perceive the influence of peers as a potential risk in their children's personal success, and therefore they are expected to respect their young children's choice of friends, or restrict their choice of friends. So we can kind of see this sort of stereotypical belief that we've come to know, that Chinese parents are more controlling of their children's outcomes in life. And we have several examples that we have, even personal examples, and Justin will be sharing that with us.
So with these examples, please know that this may vary from person to person, but this will be my experience as a Chinese growing up in Hong Kong, which is a sort of a separate country, but also similar to China. So in terms of respecting authority, like Riley said, there's a bit of that influence and control within everyone's lives. My mom always wanted me to, always had this thing when I was growing up where they wanted me to hang around the better side of people and to pick my friends wisely, so to say. And when I do find those good friends, and when we would come to my house, play video games, stuff like that, there's also that harmony aspect where like, if you're the house guest, it's usually kind of rude to not come in with anything or not come in, not buying something to help out with the party, so to say. So also with the harmony aspect, so for some of you who may not know, my dad and mom are separated even though they're still married. They, even though this is happening and this is like destructing the whole harmony of the families that are involved, such as myself, such as my dad's side and my mom's side, my mom still consciously went after the fact that my dad is still providing something for the family and still trying to get me and my younger brother to make up or still try to be on equal terms and footing with my dad, even though they're in this hard separation, this hard moment of separation at the moment. Growing up, in terms of the diligence, like Riley said, growing up, my mom also kind of taught me hard work and proper manners. So she kind of instilled the if it's not done, get it done attitude, where she would ask me to get a homework done before I go relax and stuff like that. She also taught me to, like Riley said, there's that high respect for authority, including teachers, politicians, doctors, lawyers, people like that. But our caveat was that because we're also third culture kids in an Asian society, we also were taught, like, as long as it's warranted. So like if abuse or neglect, things like that happen, there's no reason to really respect. There's no really real reason to respect those people. She also taught me context, or like that value of the harmony, because like Riley said, if like that one action could influence everyone. So when my socialization tendencies came out, my mom would kind of pull me aside and would always say, "Hey, watch where you're acting here," or "Hey, watch out, you're doing something wrong." If it felt off, and I'll kind of have to try to blend in a bit more, so to say. Communication wise, I also have to be careful what I said. Like Riley said, respect for authorities, respect for authorities does go in a way, but also we have to be careful of how we even say those things or how we address people. So again, it varies from person to person, but this is just my experience growing up. Everyone else would have a different experience. And these are our references.
Okay, so for our quiz, these are the questions that you're going to have to answer. In a study done by Zhang et al. In 2013, were Chinese or American children more likely to express egocentric concerns? Our second question is, what kind of culture is China historically known to have? Our third question is, are pre-conventional, conventional, and post-conventional parts of Kohlberg's morality or Piaget's stages? And our fourth question is, do Piaget's stages occur in the same order across all cultures? Thank you for listening to our presentation.